Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameCast review. I'm Mark, and I'll be reviewing Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, now available for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and Nintendo Switch. As a bit of backstory, you should all know that I helped fund the game a few years ago when the Kickstarter first went live. I've been waiting for this for a long time, so my expectations were sky high. Amazingly, even with a few issues or missteps, I can say Bloodstained Ritual of the Night scratches that Castlevania itch that only this team and this director is capable of. Igavania is now a thing, and I'm glad to be here at the start of it all. Bloodstained isn't subtle about what it is. It's very clearly a Castlevania game, minus the iconic names. In terms of starting off what could potentially be a franchise, the narrative feels like an introduction into Castlevania. Basically, fearing they are no longer needed, alchemists have taken things too far and opened up a demonic gateway and cursed a portion of humanity as shardbinders, humans capable of absorbing crystallized demonic energy and repurposing it for themselves. You play as Miriam, a shardbinder who wants to set the now chaotic world right. In order to do that, she'll need to take down Gebel, another shardbinder who has fallen to madness and is using his powers for evil. Miriam chases Gebel to a mysterious castle which has just risen from the earth, and well, you probably know how the rest goes. It's not hiding its inspiration, it's almost like it's displaying it proudly as a way to tell off Konami for leaving their franchise dormant. They even went so far as to hire David Hayter to play one of the characters, probably just so they can incorporate as many Konami games as possible within Bloodstained. Not to say that those are the only references either, as Iga makes it clear he loves JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and what would a Kickstarter game be without its Shovel Knight cameo? The story is decent enough and does have multiple endings with cryptic conditions, just like Castlevania's post-Symphony of the Night. However, while I appreciate a lot of what this game does regarding staying true to this Castlevania formula, I do think storytelling has come a long way in games like these, and while the story itself is good, I don't think it's told particularly well. I don't want to give anything away, but generally the way it handles cutscenes and dialogue left me wanting, and as such I think it's one of the few areas Bloodstained should have modernized. But gameplay is the true core of any Castlevania, and I am happy this game delivers. Looking back on other Metroidvania games I've played in recent memory, like Hollow Knight, I felt like they did a great job and definitely evolved the genre to fit a more modern market. However, while they are Metroidvanias, no game has really felt like a Castlevania since, well, the last Castlevania. But Bloodstained actually feels like Castlevania, right down to annoying floating enemies that bounce you around tricky platforming sections. To be more specific, this feels a lot like the later Castlevania games, which built on what Symphony laid down. It's more in line with the Sorrow games or Order of Ecclesia, where your loadout and move list wasn't just dependent on your weapon, but what powers you had absorbed from enemies. It's pretty much the same thing here, just in 3D and with a full 360 range of motion for your direction attacks. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. For those unfamiliar with the genre, and in particular its predecessors, part of Castlevania's charm is its strict movement and combat functions. For example, in Castlevania and Bloodstained, you can't swing up with your weapon. This makes hitting airborne enemies annoying, but also challenging. Using a greatsword helps by adding a larger hitbox but slower swing, so it's only somewhat viable. Bloodstained uses this same principle, with restrictive basic movement and attacks, but elaborate shard attacks that fire in all number of directions and styles. 1 minute you'll be spinning a spiked sword around the room, while the next you'll be firing dozens of knives out of your palm. You can attack from all sides with a shield of portraits, or summon a werewolf to claw at your enemies from a distance. You can throw axes that fly forward and backward like a boomerang, you can transform into a demonic bunny girl, cover your back with a friendly familiar, and you can even learn weapon skills to build on previously limited skill sets and swings. It's built in such a way that you make up for your character's shortcomings with a huge selection of additional abilities to suit your own unique playstyle. Once it clicks, it feels perfect. However, much like its predecessors, it sometimes suffers from a lack of direction or confusing logic strings that leave you wondering how and where to proceed. This is only amplified by how early the game lets go of the reins and gives you mostly free choice over where to go next, even though there is really only one place to go. There are also a bunch of collectibles and side quests to keep you busy and running back and forth through the castle. Fortunately, fast travel is easy enough, and apart from a few isolated incidents, save points are in pretty logical areas in relation to these travel spots. You'll probably need those save points too, as they almost always precede a boss fight. Much like you'd expect, the bosses here are very Castlevania. Some more memorable than others, but almost all of them put up a fight and have specific attack patterns and windows for counterattacks. It's very much what I expect from this genre and pedigree, But again, times have changed somewhat, and the genre has modernized, while again Bloodstained is stuck in the past. It's not sure if it's old or new, and I find that really hard to pin down. All I know is that no other Metroidvania has felt as close to Castlevania as this. Presentation in Bloodstained is one of its odd points. While the visual gothic anime theme is great, as well as enemy and character design, I found the actual engine a little dated. Like this could have run on previous gen without much issue. It doesn't push any limits, which while fine, just would have looked better with a 2D engine or something like what Arc System Works have been doing with their fighting games. It does look a lot better than it did previously though, and level structure is a great improvement over the earlier demos and footage too. There were a number of bugs in my playthrough even after installing the latest patch. I frequently encountered items getting stuck mid-air while they dropped from enemies, Miriam getting stuck in the level geometry when I crouch slided into the edge of some areas, Miriam not reacting to the final blow and leaving me running around for a few seconds before getting a game over. I also encountered framerate dipping towards the end of the game, in particular against one of the final bosses. I also had an audio bug during the final cutscene, with an enemy's death cry laying over the entire ending. Lastly, the load times on the base PS4 are terrible. After I died, I'd have to wait anywhere between 4 to 10 minutes before I could play again. Subsequent deaths in the same area usually led to quicker load times, but they were still annoying, especially because it looks as if the game had frozen. The audio is generally quite good, with a cool rock gothic soundtrack, and some beautifully cheesy English voice acting. David Hayter does a good job as Zangetsu, but he really isn't meant for that role. Jeeble and Miriam provide more believable performances, but it's so over the top and melodramatic that it fits with Castlevania perfectly. The Japanese voice acting is a little more serious and makes the total package feel more complete. The soundbites that play every time you level up or acquire a new shard deserve a mention too, as they give the gameplay a little more impact. Overall, I had a lot of fun with Bloodstained. If it sounded like I was bashing it, I still had a blast playing it. I could barely put the game down and finished it in only a few play sessions, while still getting as many endings as I could and finishing in the high 90s for map exploration. Since then, I'm up to 99% explored and found a few extra secrets and even a throwback to classic Castlevania before Symphony. I loved it, flaws and all. That being said, if I were to recommend it to people, I'd say it's best enjoyed when you know what you're getting into, or if you've waited for a sale, as hopefully by then we have some more patches to iron out some of the issues a bit more. I hope you enjoyed that video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and please let us know what you thought of Bloodstained in the comments below. Until next time, bye!